Conscious Co-Creations, straight talk about the mind, body, business, and spirit. And I am really excited today because today we're going to be talking about Finding Happiness, a wonderful movie. And what I'm really excited about it is who isn't looking for happiness? And I have here with me today the director of Finding Happiness, Ted Nicolaou. And I also have with me a wonderful actor named David Eby. And we are going to be exploring happiness. So welcome, the two of you.
All right, thanks, Carly. Well, I'm happy to be here. Hey, David.
Good to see you all. Thank you.
I'm really excited because, who isn't looking for happiness? I think we've all in our lives have explored finding happiness. And I think the two of you have different points of view on finding happiness because, David, you're a part of the village of Ananda, and you, the director, aren't part of the community. So that's what we're going to be exploring, the 2 points of views. So I'd like to start with you, David, a little bit because you have the point of view having been the director. So can you explore a little bit for me what that was like?
Okay, so Ted, I was the director. David.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm looking at two names. I got 2 screens open.
Okay, so for me as director of the film, I kind of was brought in by my friend Roberto Bessi, who was producer of the film that Swami Kriyananda initially contacted. And it took a number of meetings with several people that are very close to Swami before they finally introduced me to Swami Kriyananda and proposed me as a director for the film. And it started out as the idea was going to be like a documentary about the Ananda community. And through a number of meetings, it gradually turned into the movie that it is today, which is the story of a journalist who comes to Ananda as a skeptic and has her eyes opened gradually through meeting the people of Ananda community. So for me, the experience was as an outsider, a very sympathetic outsider, coming in as a stranger and meeting one by one the principal people of Ananda.
I think we should even go back a little further and actually have David explain a little bit what is Ananda? I mean, like, literally, I'm sure a lot of people are going, we're talking about Anada Villiage, and they're probably going, what is Ananda? So why don't we have David explain a little bit as to what is Ananda, and who is Ananda?
Where I live, the sound of traffic is incessant. People everywhere, rushing about their lives. My name is Juliet. I'm an investigative journalist. My magazine sent me to write a profile of a spiritual community in Northern California and its founder, a man named Swami Kriyananda.
I'd like you to go there, take a look around. Think they have some answers? I want you to write an article on it.
The community is called Ananda, which means joy. On first glance, everyone seemed happy, but appearances can be deceiving. Spirituality and charismatic leaders made me think of cults. But when I met Kriyananda, those thoughts went away.
Spirituality is a free-flowing thing. You're living in grace even though you may not know it.
At the age of 22, he became a lifelong disciple of the 20th century yoga master Paramahansa Yogananda. In 1968, he inspired a handful of young idealists to create the first Ananda community. Now Ananda communities are flourishing around the world. There was a story here, but it wasn't at all what I expected. It was a gathering place of extraordinary individuals, living their lives by an ancient science, both spiritual and practical. I learned about their teachings and how they put them into action.
A completely integrated life. The physical body, the mind, the emotions, and of course the spirit.
It's an exciting time in medicine because we now understand that the brain is really much more changeable than we ever realized. People that meditate regularly feel happy, feel like it's easy to learn new things, you feel creative, kinder, more empathy toward other people.
Community is really about people. We're able to live simply here because we know that happiness comes from inside.
We can probably define spirituality as, does it make you feel happy?
I'm happy, aren't I? Imagine a world where the goal is finding happiness.
Ananda was founded by Swami Kriyananda back in 1968, and if you've ever read the book Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramhansa Yogananda, Swami Kriyananda was a direct disciple of Paramhansa Yogananda, and in 1968 he purchased the land with help of some friends up in Northern California outside of Nevada City, and from there went on to build this intentional community of like-minded individuals who wanted to truly find happiness. And the movement has grown, and now we have communities not only in Northern California, but in Los Angeles, Palo Alto, Sacramento, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Assisi, Italy, and numerous ones in India. So it's made up of a number of people from many, many different walks of life who are choosing to live their lives intentionally through the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda.
Now you said something that's really key there. You said intention, and now you know why you're on Intention Radio. And that's one of the reasons why I brought you onto this particular channel. And intention is such a very powerful word.
Yes, it
is.
is.
It is actually a very powerful word, not just world. So let's talk about intention a little bit. What does intention mean to you?
Intention means that you're looking for something. You're, like in the case of finding happiness, you're doing everything with the intention of finding happiness. You're not just living your life in passivity. You're answering the wake-up calls that come to you with greater and greater opportunity the more you look for them. So for me, my intention is to live in happiness, but also then to share that, to let people know what I found within myself that I want other people to experience. And this movie was an incredible experience, and I just felt this presence, and I don't know how to describe it because it didn't come with a name tag, but there was one of the first times that I met Ted with Swami Kriyananda and Elizabeth Rome, where it's just this energetic field, I don't know how else to describe it to people, just enveloped me from this meeting that we were having. And I said, okay, I want to know what this is. I want to live in this, because that was, for me, one of the greatest moments of my life. We're all given so many gifts in this life, and to just say, well, that was interesting, and then just go on with life would be to squander this great opportunity. So throughout this whole process of filmmaking, I've used that as my intention to take that presence that I experienced that day and try to share it in every scene, in every piece of music, and every word that I spoke. So intention for me is what I try to do every morning when I get up.
Now I'm going to take that over to the director here. What does the word intention mean to you?
It means to me that you have an objective, and in the case of an intentional community, the community has the same objective. And for me, when I see Ananda, it is the intention of that community is to seek happiness through meditation, through the way that they live a very simple, very meaningful life.
Now, let's take this further from a director's point of view. What was your intention in making the movie? In terms of, as a director directs a movie, what would you see the intention from your point of view in making the movie? What would that intention be?
The intention of this movie gradually evolved as we were making it, because it started out with a script, and the script we realized was too difficult to get the truth from the non-actors who were going to be in our film, to get the truth by having them say scripted words. So our intention basically was to have Ananda tell its own story, have the people of Ananda to capture a community, a self-portrait of a community through the life experiences of the people of that community. And then the further intention of that is basically to share the inspirations that the people of Ananda have learned through a very long and dedicated process, to share those ideas with the outside world.
So did that evolve going more from a fully scripted script to more of a non-script, kind of like, a reality show is semi-scripted? It's, in other words, from a fully scripted to a semi-script. You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, we went basically from a script, and then when actually, it's good that David is here, because when we realized, the moment that we realized that that the script was not going to work for us, was when David came in and met us the first time for the role of Juliet's guide at Ananda. And there was a script, and we started reading it, and then at one point I said, David, just put down the script and tell me about your life from your heart. And at that moment we realized the difference between scripted words and words from the heart. And so the whole entire movie, basically, we threw away the script. We kept the script to the extent that there was a basic kind of outline of events, and from scene to scene, even the very first scene we shot with David, we learned very quickly that one scene really needed to have one point, and because it was the scene where David is leading Juliet down the steps at Crystal Hermitage and offers to let her go into the small temple that exists there, the chapel that exists there. And poor David, we gave him so many things to say that it was impossible, and we ended up reshooting that scene once we realized, okay, what we have to do day by day is determine what the points of each scene are, and kind of discuss them between me and Asha Praver, who was kind of our Ananda content guide, and then with the individual actors. And David was really the first person that we shot. So yeah, the movie was totally non-scripted, but very strenuously outlined.
Isn't that amazing? I've been on both sides. I've been behind the camera, in front of camera my entire life, and I've done reality shows and not. So I get where you're coming from, and it is really amazing when you get inside the head, and you from the director's point of view, it is. You have to actually take scene by scene by scene and go into your heart and then portray that from that place. And I find that to be almost more, I don't know, I can't explain it. From sitting on the side where you're watching a movie, it is, I find anyway, so much more impactful because you're actually getting the heart. And so I know, I enjoy it so much more. And I actually did watch the movie Finding Happiness twice to really, really feel, and I don't know, I enjoyed it. It was really amazing.
Oh, cool. That's very good.
And I've actually been to the Ananda place over here in Malibu. I love that place. I love going there and just meditating and being with the trees and the flowers and just, I love that place. It's so beautiful, so powerful. And actually, I want to go back to something that you said. You said that feeling, that energy, that field, right, David? That you said, I don't know how to describe it. I have an analogy for you. How many times have you shook someone's hand and you either instantly love someone or hate somebody and you have no idea why?
It happens all the time.
Right. So
David,
that feeling, that no, I'm serious. You don't know what it is. I won't use the word hate, but it's just this feeling. You either instantly love someone or embrace that feeling, or I'll give you another impactful feeling. Going into a chapel or a temple or a monastery, and there's hundreds of people chanting, singing, and you're enveloped in this field of the chanting or the song or the prayer, and there's that field, that energy, that presence. That's that same feeling you were talking about, is it not?
Absolutely is, and in fact, I've had many of those moments throughout my time with Ananda. The first time, 16 years ago, when I walked into an Ananda temple up here in Portland, it was like I knew I was home. I don't know any of these people, but yet I recognize them as longtime friends from where, previous lives, who knows. But all throughout my time, I've had that over and over again, whether it's in another country, whether it's in just even in a meditation, these energies will come, and it's one of the ways that I can tell that I'm in the right place.
And Ted, the only reason I brought the analogy about love or hate is because you all three of us get the field or that immense love feeling. We're talking to everybody out there, and not everybody understands that feeling. Not everyone's really spiritual and very loving and very giving. But when you tell people that analogy of just a handshake, they can conceptualize that. So that's why I use that analogy. Because we're talking to a very vast population of people. And by the way, everybody, we are on Intention Radio, and we are talking about intention, and we're talking with the wonderful David Eby, and we have with us the director of Finding Happiness, Ted Nicolaou. How did I say that right? Nicolaou?
Nicolaou.
I'm going to say that properly. So, anyways, yeah, I'm like really excited because we're talking about the movie Finding Happiness, and we are on Intention Radio. And by the way, I want all of you to go to check out the intentioncall.com, where a group of people gather every Saturday at 3 p.m., and they actually focus on an intention for literally like 15 minutes, whether it be they're focusing on intention on love, or they're focusing on, they pick something to focus on for 15 minutes every Saturday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so go check them out. That's on Intention Radio, and that's where we are now, and the intentioncall.com. So please go check that out, and please welcome back David Eby and the wonderful director Ted from Finding Happiness. I'm so happy to have you guys with me. So welcome back, you guys.
Hey, thank you.
So let's continue this conversation. So I hear, David, that you have left Ananda and have moved where?
Well, Ananda is not just one particular place. I have moved from the Anada Villiage in Northern California in Nevada City up to our community in Portland, which is a apartment complex with beautiful grounds, an orchard. It's really an idyllic place set right on the outskirts of the city. And so for me, it was time. This movie kind of marked the end of an era, a 12-year cycle, where I had gained all this education and experience, and now it is time for me to help spread that and interact more on a social level, more in the city, with this kind of energy, with these teachings, with these intentions.
Speaking of which, Ted, how long did it take to actually, from beginning of script to when, Cam to fully completing the movie, how long was that whole process?
The total process was a little over 2.5 years, actually. From my initial meetings with Swami, I spent probably the first 6 months reading a lot of the books of Swami's and Asha's and books about the community. And every week I would sit with Swami for an hour, and we would just talk about a wide variety of subjects. And then we spent a period of time when we thought we were making a documentary interviewing everybody that we could interview in a real kind of traditional documentary style interviews. So, and then writing a screenplay, and then eventually shooting, and we shot in 2 separate periods of shooting of 2 weeks each, and then another 6 months of editing after that. So it was a long commitment and a long learning process for me.
Now, it went into film festivals, did it not?
It is just now going out to film festivals. We're in some film festival in Jakarta in Indonesia, Festival of Peace and something, and we were accepted at the Moondance International Film Festival in Mystic, Connecticut for the end of September, and hopefully we'll get. Yeah.
So what are we doing to get, what do you need for more awareness for this movie right now? Are they doing house parties? I know a lot of the indies and movies like this are actually having filming screenings in people's homes and all sorts of wonderful things. So what do you need from the public to bring more awareness to this movie?
I think people have to see it and tell their friends. We are organizing screenings, I think, at Unity churches around the country. I hope they have a plan, which I'm not quite totally up on, in terms of a lot of free screenings and hosted screenings, And then we're also looking for a distribution to try to get the film into some select theaters. And then after that, it'll be DVD, Blu-ray, and on demand.
And obviously, I want everyone to know that you can locate the movie at findinghappinessmovie.com. So please make sure you go check it out, because I want you to go look at the website and get a feel for it. It really is a fabulous movie, and I think Ted did an amazing job, as well as David. I mean, I've watched this movie, like I said, twice, and it is an absolutely fabulous movie. What are some things that you'd really like people to know about the movie? I mean, you both have spent some, obviously 2 years with this movie. So what are some of the deep messages, David, that you'd like people to know about the movie?
Well, number one, that it's real. Oftentimes you see these movies that portray this utopian ideal, and you get the sense, well, they're just putting that on. Especially in this particular style of movie, where we're trying to take the best of what we have there at the village. And so, of course, we're trying to portray ourselves in the best possible light. It's not that we don't have challenges. It's not that we don't have difficulties. It's not that our lives aren't filled with stress, but it's how we face them, it's how we rise above, and how we resolve these things that I think truly do get represented in the film. So it's not a happy, oh yes, just come live at the village and everything will be great, but it's a lot of work to be there, but I think the fruits of the action really get portrayed beautifully in the film that you'll see there. So although some things are slightly idealized, the vibration is what you feel there every day.
And that's what I wanted to find out from you, Ted. Having experienced that, seeing the people there, yes, they are happy, and yes, they do experience stress. And you living on the outside, how did that truly impact your life? In other words, what were some of the biggest takeaways for you? Like, how did you take and apply what you saw there and apply that in your life outside? You know what I'm saying? How did you take the takeaways and apply them in your daily life?
I think I'm still processing that. First of all, the making of the film was such a all-engrossing ordeal for me. I felt the same thing. I don't identify myself as a spiritual person, but I live by a code of honor that I think is very close to spiritual. And when I first came to Ananda and first started meeting everybody, I felt the same thing that David described, basically, that there was an immediate feeling of kinship with them. And part of that is a generational thing, perhaps, that we all came, not David, he's a young boy, but from the generation of the 60s. And so for me, the process was basically like learning to open my mind to a philosophy that I was not that familiar with in the beginning, to see the humanity past the kind of spiritual identity of people, and to see their humanity, and to be open-minded and loving enough to try to express that through all the kind of cumbersome technical equipment of a film crew. What I came away with in the end is basically a much more, I've always been a very patient and calm person as a filmmaker, but to realize in the same way that our character Juliet does, that there's a life that's beyond kind of the work that you do, that you have to love your friends, you have to make time for your family, that you have to make time for just appreciating your life. And so those are the things that I come away with.
Now, David, you actually were the person that, well, let's talk about Juliet's character a little bit here. Now, obviously, she's not with us because she was actually getting ready and actually is filming 7 days a week right now. What would you say, her impact for her was? I mean, she obviously went through some big transformations. Her character basically was told her assignment was to go in, leave the city, and come and do a piece on you guys. So what do you feel was the biggest transformation for her, coming from living in a city, being a journalist, and being told that she's got to come do a journalist piece on your village.
Yeah. So I had the great joy of spending a lot of time with her, you know, hanging out in the car and waiting for the next scenes and things like that. So I actually did a wonderful interview where she explains the creative process and what it's been like for her, and that's also on the blogs and posted on the findinghappinessmovie.com website, and I encourage you to check it out. But basically, she is explaining how she was at a very unique period in her life. Her mother had just passed, and she was looking for guidance, and suddenly this movie opportunity came, and she obviously needed to connect with it on that deeper level and allowed herself to have an experience. And one thing I asked her was, during the final scene of the movie where she receives a blessing from Swami Kriyananda, I said, how much is that Juliet and how much is that you, Elizabeth? And she said, well, gradually I let myself come through more and more during the filming process, so that at the end of that process you see me. And she said it was a very vulnerable experience for her because she's so used to portraying other people, but then to actually portray yourself is a totally different experience, she was saying. So for her, it was just an opportunity to connect deeply with spirit and to allow herself to truly have a beautiful experience. So I'm hoping that comes across.
So to clarify for the audience, what you're saying is, in real time, in real life, her mother had passed, is what you're saying. So,
yes.
So the audience, because I don't know
immediately recently, but
no, but I'm saying to clarify for the audience who's listening, you're talking about the real. Just clarify that so they understand.
Yes, Elizabeth Rome's mother had passed away about a year before the filming began. Yeah.
Got it. That's what I'm saying, because so people are saying the blending of the real character and the real.
Yeah.
So, and then can you talk a little bit about her as the character that she played, and what you thought she went through as the character, and the changes that, what you saw in her, actually really talk about that transition that you saw, because I thought that was pretty powerful.
Yeah, it's hard to kind of be cynical and be kind of city-like. It was in the first interview, I'm thinking of the first scene where she meets Swami Kriyananda. She's supposed to be all just hard and hard-edged, but yet in his presence she just allowed herself to feel that vibration. So immediately that was something that put her character and herself truly at ease. And it was beautiful to watch how she just was able to relax further and further into that experience, kind of letting go herself of all the pressures of city life as we were doing this shooting in this rural countryside.
And from your point of view as a director, what did you see? How did you see her transform? Because it's very different from, and I've seen this time and time again, from an actor's point of view, you see something very differently because you're playing with her as another actor. What are you seeing from the director's point of view? How did you truly see her shift?
Her shift, we kind of talked about how it needed to occur gradually through the course of the film. And what David's saying is right. It was, when you meet Swami, you're sort of charmed and softened, and you can't be as hard-edged as you would maybe want to be, even as an actress. We were really lucky with Elizabeth because she is a spiritual person and has grown up with yoga, and she so she kind of could fit in to the culture at Ananda in a very good way, and yet she's a professional actress and a very good actress, and can create that sense of distance too. So it was really a very deliberately sort of plotted arc for her character. And one thing that we did do when we were shooting the scenes with Swami and a few other key scenes of the film, we shot her close-up and Swami's close-up simultaneously, so that her reactions would hopefully be, whatever was going to happen, we would be able to capture that lightning in a bottle in those particular moments. And that's very difficult for the director of photography, for the crew itself to shoot crossing close-ups like that, but we felt it was necessary in this case.
And if you could do anything differently, would you have done anything differently as a director? Is there anything that you look back now, in other words, it's done, right? And you've grown as a person, you've both grown as people through that experiences. So is there anything that you look back on it now going, now that I've seen the evolution of it, now that I've changed a little bit as a person, would you go back and go, I wish I would have done a little bit of the scenes differently, or I wish I could film additional things?
If I could go back and film additional things, I would go back and try to capture more the sense of the daily life of the community, because we went for 2 weeks of shooting, and that shooting was very tightly scheduled with the dialogues with people. I had been there a week previous, like a year or so previous, for a week of shooting with just a documentary crew, and at that time we shot a lot of daily life and kind of beautiful scenery of the community. But I still feel like when I go through the footage looking for, okay, what do people do there in a day-by-day basis? And it might be that what you see people doing in any life is not all that fantastic on a day-by-day basis. I sit here at a computer and work. David makes music, so it's much more interesting to listen to and watch. But I feel like, and in fact, if I ever have the chance to come back and shoot more, I would try to get a little bit more of the daily life and the loving kind of family life too, because what goes on in people's houses is, I'm sure, interesting from a human point of view, So we got staged scenes and events shot, but I still feel like there's a lot more to know there.
So that's where I was going. So I was wondering, has anyone ever thought of, like, watching a child grow up? So you have, for example, now, and children are growing up in the family, and then filming, for example, so you're shooting some of this now, and then watching a child grow up. Because you remember there was that one scene where the mother was talking about the three, I can't remember, I'm trying to remember the exact scene it was. Help me out here, David. And they were talking about the one mother where the husband died.
Yes.
Right, the Kretschmann.
Okay, right. So, and then actually now filming, like, years later, having the generations and talking to those kids as they raise. I think that would be a really powerful piece, where then years later you're talking to those kids, what that was like growing up in that community. That would be really powerful.
I think Swami was really very media savvy, and he has had video cameras on him for the last few years for sure, and probably even longer than that. And I think they have that ability to keep documenting life at Ananda, and I hope they will be. I think now they've got an incredible archive of material from the interviews that we shot, and if they consciously keep adding to it, they will have, in the end, an amazing kind of epic story.
Yeah, I think that'd be so powerful, because like you said, it's like having those moments of what's going on inside the families. So I think people, like you said, it's not idyllic. It's not like it's all, oh, it's so wonderful and blissful. It's like, no, people do have challenges. People do pass away. There is that kind of, like the challenges of like going away to a real college or staying inside here, or there are those challenges where kids wonder what's going on the outside. They do have inner conflict at times. So having that, that dialogue and those feelings, and that they do feel, they do have normal thoughts like normal kids. And so I thought that was a really powerful scene where they actually did have that discussion, and I thought that was really beautiful. So anyways, I want everyone to know that we are on Intention Radio, and I'm here with our wonderful guest, David Eby, and the director of Finding Happiness, Ted Nicolaou. And I know I'm not saying that properly, but anyways, I want you to say that for me. I want everyone to say their names at least once properly. So, David, I want you also to share. David, share with us, because I know you actually are really great at music. So I want you guys both to share a little bit about yourselves, because this is the opportunity to do that. David, share of yourself. What do you do and who are you?
What do I do? That's a really, really good question, especially after this past year, because it's been a wonderful opportunity to open the doors to new ways of sharing inspiration, basically. So I'm a classically trained cellist, and I have performed with like the band Pink Martini. I was their original cellist, with string quartets, with orchestras all over the country, and I've been a school teacher, I've been a music instructor, and I've been the music director for Ananda for the past 10 years. And so what I'm trying to do now is to take this universal inspiration, taking the happiness that we're all looking for, and teaching that to other professional musicians who may have lost their way, trying to rekindle that inspiration that they once had, and using it to gain much better results in performing and in finding their inner happiness.
Wonderful. And I want you to share what else have you directed, and who are you, and what is your passion?
My passion is making
movies. And say your name for me properly, please.
My name is Ted Nicolaou.
There we go. See, it's the last syllable I wasn't saying right. Nicolaou.
Nicolaou. My history is rather spotty. I've made a lot of low-budget movies, some vampire movies, some children's fantasy films. For the past 12 years or so, I've been doing a lot of documentary bonus features for classic Disney movies. So in that process, I think I learned a lot about documentary filmmaking and telling the story of kind of interesting people. And so that work, I think, prepared me for working with Ananda and trying to tell the story of the Ananda community and Swami's life.
And what is your passion? What do you love to do? Like, obviously you love to do movies. What is another passion of yours?
I love to make movies. I love to make movies. I love to play guitar.
See?
My life. Yeah. I was a rock and roller back in.
I can tell by your hair. I knew there was a musician in you.
Yeah, there's definitely a musician in me. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for taking out of your busy schedules to spend an hour with me. This hour has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for that. We are on Intention Radio. I just want to thank everybody for spending time with me. And as usual, I love spending time with you guys. I love feedback. Make sure you leave me some. And as usual, you guys always know this is going to be a video. It's also going to be a podcast. I will make sure that I put together wonderful web pages. I always do for you. And for tonight, I leave you. But as usual, I will be with you next week. And please, as you guys know, whatever you guys want to know about, please be free to let me know. I love bringing you valuable content. And please be sure to go check out the movie. Go check out their website at findinghappinessmovie.com. Be sure to check out intentionradio.com. You've been with your host, Carly Alyssa Thorne. You can always find me at carlyalyssathorne.com. David, where can we find you?
davidebmusic.com.
There you go. And I'll have information on both of these guys on my page. So anything you need to find out about them, you can find out on my page. And for now, I leave you. But thank you so much for joining me, and everybody have a great night. Good night, everyone.